Bestem Abwa Waldem Fescadus Adwamla Amen. Bestem Abwa Waldem Fescadus Adwamla Amen. Bestem Abwa Waldem Fescadus Adwamla Amen. Yes, good morning and welcome to today, Monday. If you're watching this on the Monday when I've recorded it, but whichever day you're engaging with this, you've got to give God thanks that we're able to see this day. Not everyone has been afforded the luxury to see today, and we give thanks that we're able to partake in the opportunity in whatever today holds. So regardless of what's in front of us, got to give God thanks for the now and the fact that we're able to be in the now and to engage with whatever comes in front of us. So blessings and love. So today's reading, Deuteronomy 17. You shall not sacrifice to Yahweh your God an ox or a sheep in which is a defect or anything evil, for that is an abomination to Yahweh your God. If there is found among you within any of your gates which Yahweh your God gives you, a man or a woman who does that which is evil in Yahweh your God's sight in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, or the sun or the moon, or any of the stars of the sky, which I have not commanded, and you are told, and you have heard of it, then you shall inquire diligently. Behold, if it is true, and the thing certain, that such an abomination is done in Israel, then you shall bring out that man or that woman who has done this evil thing to your gates, even that same man or woman, and shall stone them to death with stones. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or 3 witnesses, he who is to die shall be put to death. At the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. The hands of the witnesses shall be first on him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. So you shall remove the evil from among you. If there arises a matter too hard for you in judgment between blood and blood, between plea and plea, and between stroke and stroke, between matters of controversy within your gates, then you shall arise and go up to the place which Yahweh your God chooses. You shall come to the priests who are Levites, and to the judge who shall be in those days. You shall inquire, and you shall give you a verdict. You shall do according to the decisions of the verdict, which they shall give you from that place which Yahweh chooses. You shall observe to do according to all that they teach you, according to all the decisions of the law which they shall teach you, and according to the judgment which they shall tell you. You shall do. You shall not turn away from the sentence which they announce to you, to the right hand nor to the left. The man who does presumptuously is not listening to the priest who stands to minister there before Yahweh your God, or to the judge. Even that man shall die. You shall put away the evil from Israel. All the people shall hear and fear and do no more presumptuously. When you have come to the land which Yahweh your God gives you, and possesses it and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me, you shall surely set him whom Yahweh your God chooses as king over yourselves. You shall set as king one of you from among your brothers, but they may not be a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. Only he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he may multiply horses. Because Yahweh has said to you, you shall not go back that way again. He shall not multiply wives to himself, that his heart not turn away. He shall not greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. It shall be, when he sits on the throne of the kingdom, that he shall write himself a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before Levitical priests. He shall be with him. He shall read from it all the days of his life, and he may learn to fear Yahweh his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them. that his heart not be lifted up among his brothers, that he may not turn away from the commandment of the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the middle of Israel. For these few words I give thanks, blessings and love. So yeah, this chapter is another recap chapter, really. Lots of the details in here have been looked at previously in Exodus and Leviticus, and also a little bit in the book of Numbers. So I'm not going to go through that again, but really try to pick on any kind of differences or nuances within it. But I won't speak longer than I need to, because there might not be need to. At the beginning, when it talks about nature, anyone who worships nature shall be an abomination. That's kind of interesting. If there's anyone among you within the gates which Yahweh has given you, which does this evil in the sight of transgressing for the covenant, and has served other gods and worshipped them, like the sun or the moon or any of the stars of the sky, which I have not commanded. So yeah, that idea of worshipping the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky, that actually reminded me, is years ago now, it's about 2000, when I was at work and I was talking with a colleague, and I was telling her about Rasta and some of the philosophies, and why, and I started talking about paganism and why I was against paganism. And she goes, "Oh, what's paganism? What's paganism?" So I started talking about how, they worship the trees, they worship the sun and the moon and the plants, and worship them and as if they're gods. And obviously that's a very oversimplification of what paganism is, and I said other things as well, but that was one of the things that I said. And she goes, "Oh, that sounds quite nice to me, worshipping nature and the trees and the sun." And she kind of took it as a positive thing, because it's actually sounds quite romantic, do you know what I mean, in the sense of people's affinity with nature. She goes, "Oh, that doesn't sound that bad to me." And yeah, it's just one of these interesting moments of friends kind of talking across different ideologies. But within Christianity, within Rastafari, there's a huge respect of nature. Within the Ethiopian flag, the green denotes nature, and the rich lush of Africa and Ethiopia, and that respect of nature, and even how humans themselves are a part of nature. Within the flag itself, the blood represents people and humans, as it's the blood that runs throughout all of us. But humans themselves are also an extension of nature, and Rastafari particularly are very famous to be known to be respectful of nature, and eating vegan food and these kind of things, and living off the land, particularly in those kind of rural traditions and early traditions of the faith. But that's very different to worshipping nature, respecting nature, which is what we should all be doing, and growing our food whenever we can and these kind of things. But that is very different to worshipping nature, to say that God is nature, in the sense that the tree is God or the plant is God. But then the complexity is that God is in all things. God is in nature. God is in everything. God is in man-made objects. God is in absolutely everything, because he's omnipotent and he's everywhere. And where is that everywhere if it's not in nature? So God is everywhere. God is in nature, but it's important not to confuse the respecting of nature and God being in nature with nature being God himself. And that is the nuance. So it's important that we respect nature. This is the world that God's given us, and we've only got one of them. And we're only here for a finite amount of time. So to disrespect nature and to disrespect the world is also to disrespect God, because this is the planet that he gave us. So there's that entanglement, I guess. And so that, it's an interesting thing, but I think it's the respect of nature. There's one thing also with nature, that it sometimes allows us to open our eyes to certain things, such as being in touch with God, that we might not get in a city, I've said this quote before in the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. They say Robert Pirsig, the writer, says that the only Zen you get at the top of the mountain is the Zen you take up there with you. So we should be able to connect with God not only at the top of a mountain. And remember, Canaan, they very famously put their altars on the top of mountains and hills. I say very famously because we've been reading and talking about this a few chapters ago. But you should still be able to do that on the top of a car park, on the top of a building, in the middle of a high street. You know, God is everywhere. God isn't just at the top of a mountain. God isn't just in the middle of a beautiful forest. He's also in the murky swamp. He's in, you know, a school playground. He's in a, like I say, car park, anywhere urban, anywhere at all. I'm kind of reaching for different spaces because all spaces are relevant. You know, anywhere at all. If you think about the urban sprawl, God is there, you know, and there's nowhere that he isn't. So to suggest that God is only in those spaces of nature, such as the mountains, such as the forest, is actually to underestimate God and underestimate the power of God. Because actually, if we're acting different in the city than we are acting different in the countryside, then that's something that says more about us than it does about God. Because we can access God anywhere. When we're sat at our desk at a computer, and we've just got a 30-second spare, we can activate God, we can connect with God, we can speak with God. We don't have to get out of the office and go down the lane to the park and sit on a bench in front of the stream or the river to be able to access God. You know, when we're in the canteen eating our food and we hopefully say a prayer before we start to eat, or while we're eating, if we forget to say it before we eat. You know, as soon as it springs to mind, God, give thanks for this food, give thanks for the blessing of today. After we eat, we might remember then to give thanks to God. So we say at that point, the access to God is everywhere, is always within us. Again, as the covenant said a few chapters ago, love God with all your mind, body and soul. Because God carries with us. He's not divorced from us. So wherever we are, we have access to God wherever we are, wherever our footsteps are, wherever our heart is, wherever our mind is. We can access God anywhere. And it's not just when we're looking at a beautiful sunset, a beautiful tree, a beautiful plant, moon, stars, sky, etc., etc. So yeah, I will leave it there. Just a bit of a meditation on nature, and the complexity of nature, to not to fool that God is only there. God is absolutely everywhere with a capital E. Give thanks, blessings and love, and have a fantastic day, and God willing, be back more tomorrow. Glory to God.